That's right. Video games can teach us so much about life. Now, I've been going back to the original Hollow Knight. I've been replaying through that because Hollow Knight Silksong came out. I haven't beat that, and I got the urge. You know how some games just call to you, even if you've replayed them once or you just beat them only once. Sometimes they just call to you. Well, Hollow Knight was looking at me. The Void Heart Edition was calling to me. So here I am. I'm playing it again, and I'm suddenly realizing so much about how many lessons this game can teach you. The lessons we learned from this game about perseverance are all in the story. They're in the characters around us, they're in the world, they're even in the bosses through their trials and tribulations. They just keep going. Whether it's their will to survive, whether it's their desire to keep serving a long gone king, they all have their own stories. They all just keep going, and we're surrounded by this amazing perseverance and will to survive that we keep being interacted with by these characters, and they keep telling us more stories. It's awesome. I think back to the developer interviews. I think back to when they were talking about how The Legend of Zelda 2 was an inspiration for this game, and how playing that game as a kid just totally destroyed me. I struggled with this game. It was freaky, it was cold, it was uninviting. But that was only because it was nowhere near the Zelda that I knew, that I loved. When I go back to the game and I see it now, it's kind of like a 2D side-scroller Souls game, and it has so much character, so much life, and it's such an interesting game. And to see that Hollow Knight is inspired by that, is inspired by other NES games, and how unforgiving and also welcoming it is at the same time. You know, it's not isolated like Metroid, as they said. There are characters that do just enough to make you feel like you aren't completely alone. This game, with all of its tone, its music, the struggles in the game, really teach us so much about perseverance. When Hollow Knight Silksong came out, there was the great big difficulty debacle, where no one was sure if it was too hard, if it was just them, and people were really putting that against this game. People were marking it down for how difficult it was. It's a hard game, but I wouldn't say it's any harder than some of the harder Souls games. I mean, it's just difficult. And of course, the developers said, you can explore, there are ways to get around, much like what they did with Elden Ring. You can kind of make your own path, even though it might seem linear if you just follow the path and go straight to Stormvale Castle. You don't have to do that. You can go level up. You can find your way there when you're ready. You can do it at your own pace, and that's the beauty of an open world game like that, and they're saying Silksong is much the same. Do I think it's on the same level as Elden Ring in terms of how far you can go and then come back? No. But at the same time, this game, Silksong, the first Hollow Knight, they have that same foundation of Dark Souls, where even though it's a Metroidvania style game, there are obviously Dark Souls elements to it. You're dying, you have to go back and to get your souls, and you're going back to get them. If you die on the way there, you don't get them back. You lose all of your money, your currency, and that's it. Certain games on this world, on this earth, in this world, are infinitely replayable if you ask me. I could play the first 10 minutes of Breath of the Wild so many times. I could replay Skyrim's first hour and it feels just as magical almost every time. I would say Hollow Knight is the complete opposite of that though, and that's not a bad thing. When I play Hollow Knight for the first time and I'm going through, for whatever reason, it is very hard for me to get into the game. It's so oppressive, so immediate. There are no characters around you at all. It's very lonely in the main hub town. Knowing that they're down there below you and you can go find them and recruit them to come back to town, but there is something so lonely, so dangerous about the existence and the beginning of Hollow Knight. It makes it hard for me to keep going in the game. When we talk about perseverance, when we talk about teaching people how to keep going, this game rewards that over and over again. Because here I was restarting Hollow Knight. I'd played it for about an hour and I'd been like, okay, I'm experiencing that feeling of not quite dread, but just kind of, wow, I am not sure I want to replay this again. This is just heavy and oppressive and sad. And everyone takes their own experience from that. But we can all agree on is how much Hollow Knight and how successfully Hollow Knight rewards perseverance, rewards you to keep going and to keep playing the game, because you will find more characters. The town will feel less lonely, it will feel less isolating as it might feel. And one of the things that they said they wanted to do was not what Metroid did, which if you play the first Metroid on NES, you will never feel more alone than you do in that game. Holy cow, it's isolating. Obviously, you have modern games too that go for that too. Subnautica, The Long Dark, There are games that also try to tackle that type of theme, but it's kind of different in this style of just 2D side-scrolling, if you ask me. It's almost harder to connect the characters on the screen, and for some reason, to me, 2D hits different in that way. Even though 3D, you'd think I'm more immersed, I'm more feeling the loneliness, the isolation. There's almost something, to me, more disturbing about witnessing it, and that's so easy to do from a 2D perspective. So in this game, they really did nail that though, because you get more characters, the world starts to feel more connected. And to me, it's so interesting that I have never seen them reference Dark Souls, because what they do so well, maybe they haven't, I just haven't explored enough. What they do so well is tie it into Dark Souls world building. And I'm talking about the first Dark Souls primarily here, where the world is so interconnected. And it starts to feel more alive. You start to become more familiar with it, and the world itself almost becomes an environment. And I love that. What this game does over time, even though you're going to more depressing and oppressive areas, the fungal wastes, the Soul Sanctum, the Royal Waterways, the City of Tears, Deep Nest. We all know Deep Nest. You're going to these areas, it feels like you should feel farther and farther away from the main hub town. But in reality, you keep encountering more and more characters as you go. You become more and more familiar with them, just like the Dark Souls NPCs. And my gosh, does it do a great job of creating an atmosphere, creating an environment that feels lived in. Now, I know that most people stop playing games in the beginning of the game. It's a natural thing. Most people don't get the very first achievement in a game. It's like 50%, and you ask yourself, how in the world is this even possible? I think with Hollow Knight, I know why, and I'd really wager a huge bet on the reason why is because when they're playing and the first time they go underground, it's almost too much to deal with. Certain games are like that, Amnesia as well, where the first time you enter the darkness, you just want to leave. Subnautica entering the ocean. It's oppressive, and with those games, those are oppressive for the rest of the game. Subnautica less so. But those games in particular, what they really do, but Hollow Knight in particular, where it really stands out and where I really think if these people kept playing the game, they would see this world is tragic, it is lived in, you'll keep encountering tragedy as you go, and even defeating some of the bosses feels sad, feels bad. What you'll find though, it feels good to keep going. They reward it in a way that not many other Metroidvanias or Souls games do, because obviously all these genres are designed to do that, to reward you to keep playing, to reward you to keep achieving things, keep finding things, keep defeating bosses, and you'll feel stronger. That's always the goal with a lot of these games. But what Hollow Knight does better than any of those games in particular is how it populates the world, is how you start to feel less alone, and how it shows you, okay, I keep doing this and I keep getting rewarded by the atmosphere coming alive, by learning more about the world, by encountering these different creatures and then talking to the hunter and tying it into that shop where I keep finding these seals that I can sell to him. And it's all so well interconnected on top of the music, on top of how you really feel things from the music. And sometimes the music is so oppressive. The organ in the Soul Sanctum is one that I think of where it's just so, it was really hard for me to keep going. I didn't find the boss fight. I found a fun boss fight, but not particularly difficult. I found some of the enemies, again, not too hard. But the environment itself was really making it difficult to keep going. The structure of the entire place, the layout in terms of how it's connected and how it's hard to find which path I'm supposed to go in. The music, just the dreary sadness of a place that's been long abandoned. It makes it difficult, but every time you do it, you get rewarded. And it's exhausting in a great way because you kind of feel like, even beyond just the challenge itself of the boss fights, of the fights, you have just gone through memories of this land. And you've gone through beautiful sounding music that is also so oppressive at the same time. You've gone through your own doubts and beliefs, and you made it through to the other end. So many games like this are, to me, Metroidvanias are really easy to power through. You can keep playing them forever, at least in my case, and I will often play through games like this very fast. As an example, Monster Boy, a game that is so light and full of color. I couldn't stop playing that game, and it's of a similar ilk in terms of the genre. This game, not just because it's a dark game, it goes well beyond that, really makes it hard to keep going. And it's so good for that reason. This game makes you not want to play it after a while, and that's not a bad thing. That's a really well done thing because it fits this game so well. If I felt like I could power through this game and beat it all in one sitting, I don't think it would be Hollow Knight. I think that's what makes it special. One of my favorite things that I will always talk about with the Souls games, Metroidvania games, how much it brings you inward. The amount of times you could quit playing Hollow Knight, whether it's a boss difficulty, whether it's the oppressive environments, whether it's because you're stuck, that's a huge one with Hollow Knight. Those times are endless. But if you keep exploring, if you keep looking for items and trying to find new pathways, you will almost always find something new. You will be rewarded in some way. It might drive you crazy, but if you keep going, it's going to be so much more rewarding than you looking it up. Trust me. Obviously, you have to balance wasting your time versus finding something and moving on, but it forced me specifically to catch myself, to, when I found myself almost looking for a guide, to ask myself, why am I doing this? Am I playing this game just because I want the dopamine hit of beating it? Or am I wanting to experience this world, and maybe that's why they made it difficult, was because that way I'd have to explore the world and become familiar with it. And that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? To struggle is to feel. To struggle is to be alive, and Hollow Knight tells that in so many ways, beyond just Dark Souls and the environment. Dark Souls, even though its environments are beautiful, they don't have that same type of connection that I think a 2D side-scroller can have with its environment. Dark Souls, it's more about the boss and the perseverance and you questioning your ability to beat the boss. In Hollow Knight, it's the environment itself and the bosses on top of that, and whether you can actually make it mentally through the oppressive sadness that you keep learning about with this land and its lore. It's a game that I'm loving even more now, and I didn't connect with many of these things on my first playthrough. I can't believe how much I'm connecting with it and how hard it is to keep playing it in the best way. So many times when we're playing a game, we want to keep going. We play past the point of no return is kind of what I call it, where we know we should have stopped playing because our dopamine reserves are exhausted or our attention span's gone, but we just keep doing it because we want to beat it. And so often I've beat a game where I've been playing it for 2 or 3 hours, I reach a point where I know I have an hour left, and I play it for that last hour just to do it and get it out of the way. What that left me feeling was an experience of not enjoying the ending in the way that I should have after putting in 30 or 40 hours. And that's a sad experience. And so this game, I can guarantee I'll never be that way because it's almost impossible for me to play this at more than 2-hour sessions, really. And so it's just increments of Hollow Knight where I'm enjoying it, I'm putting it down because I just can't anymore. I'm mentally exhausted, and that's a good thing though, again. But I keep playing. I keep playing because I know it's going to keep me in. And that's an amazing thing that it's doing. And it's just been so fun to dissect how Hollow Knight makes me feel, how special of a game it is, and how people who haven't given a chance should really get through that first hour, should start to populate the town, should start to find things and find new areas and see how it feels after that. And maybe it's not for you because I do think that there are certain games out there that will trigger a part of your psyche where this is just too much for me. I think Hollow Knight is one of those, and that's not soft, that's completely valid. But that's also what makes the game so great, so beautiful. The music makes me feel things in so many ways, the sound design. It's amazing. It's a great game, and I can't wait to experience Hollow Knight Silksong fresh off of playing this game and seeing it in this way. What a game, what a special time. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.